Thank you so much for joining us for AFI Fest 2021 and for the Q&A for Good Madam. I'm Julia Kipnis, and I'm one of the programmers for the festival. We're so lucky to have here with us today director and Fest alum Jenna Cato Bass, co-writer and producer Babalwa Baartman, and Chumisa Cosa, who plays the lead role of Sidi. Thank you all for being here, and congrats on such a brilliantly haunting film. I'd love to first start with a question for both Jenna and Babalwa. You both came up with the story for Good Madam together. I'd love to hear more about the inspiration behind the narrative and the genesis of the characters of Sidi, Mavis, and Diane the Madam.
Sure. I'd been wanting to do a horror film for a really long time. Horror was kind of like the last genre I got into because I was too scared to watch horror films when I was younger and getting into cinema. I was kind of too scared to watch them. So I'd read the scripts rather than watch the films, and was just like really fascinated with this idea of being able to scare people. And the more horror films I watched, I kind of just got more intrigued, and at the same time kind of realized like the things that were scaring people in horror films were very seldom the things that were actually scary about our reality. And I wanted to make a film that dealt with kind of the truly horrifying aspects of South African society, and make a horror film that kind of really showed the horror behind the everyday life that we live. And so, yeah, and kind of proposed the idea to Babalwa about this story about a domestic worker and her family. And yeah, I kind of went from there. Babalwa can speak a bit more about it as well. But yeah, we kind of just started workshopping the idea, and then involved our cast as well, and built the characters together with the people who are going to be playing them.
So Jenna and I at this point, we had collaborated on a number of projects. We had met back in 2015. So when she came and approached me with the idea of the story, it was a no-brainer, really. You know, the premise of the story was something that was easy for me to relate to, and wanting to explore those characters, which is basically our everyday life, and just having the chance and opportunity to explore, all of these questions that we have through these three characters. Yeah, I think after having the workshop with Omama and really like asking the questions, I think it got to a point where it felt a bit uncomfortable, almost as though we were trying to force, a level of anger and frustration with the situation. And I think that was like a major turning point as far as, like approaching the story, because then that dynamic that was happening during the workshop is pretty much, the similar dynamic in which the characters and the story takes, in that our generation is quite frustrated, with the way things are, and pushing and asking the generation before us to see, but what was just as equally important was also just having to, like, needing to accept, the fact that that is the life, that is a life that they had lived, and to try and impose, a level of try and impose, pain and anger when they have made peace with their situation isn't necessarily the best way to go about it. So that was quite an impactful moment as far as how we then would move forward with the story and telling it from the point of view of our generation, which was the most authentic thing we could do, really.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. And as you mentioned, you both worked together before and co-wrote this film together. And on this project, you both had many roles, including production design, cinematography, and also voice acting. What is the working dynamic like together, and what is the collaboration process like for you on the film?
I'll repeat something that Babalwa said in our Q&A when we were in Toronto, where I think she was asked, how she got involved in the film, and in front of the, this like whole cinema of people, she just said, well, Jenna just ropes me into her mess. So it kind of like applies to this question too. It's just like, I was like, okay, we don't have a lot of money, we're going to do all these things. And this is what I love about working with Babalwa, is that she I just trust her so much, and she's so capable and has so many skills that I think she doesn't even realize that she has, that I just knew that, between the two of us, we could get a lot done, and we'd be able to make the film on a really low budget, as a result. And which turned out to be, very lucky that we decided to do that, because then COVID happened and we really needed to have the smallest crew possible, because this film was made in August last year. So in the end, it actually just worked out really well, that we were all, very few people doing a lot of different things. And it was just really like out of necessity to an extent. But then also, I personally enjoy doing a whole bunch of stuff. It's like a bit selfish. Like, I don't know if it's the best thing for the film, but I like doing all those things. So I don't know, I hope Babalwa enjoyed it too, but I had fun, I think.
For the most part, I did. No, I think what I love about our working dynamic is that we both are very clear in our voices and what we want to say. And as Jenna has said, we both value and respect each other's opinion. And I think what drives me the most, is just Jenna loves to get things done. I like to get things done too, but I could definitely take longer if I didn't have her level of enthusiasm, in just like, let's do what we need to do to get where we need to get to. And I think also with wanting to put our voice out there, really, and say the things that we want to say, we've also come to realize that we just need to make things happen. There's no point in waiting, forever for someone to give us the go ahead. It's like, okay, well, what do we have now, and what can we make of it? And I think what's also been so fascinating to me about this process is that it just adds so much more layers to the story. It's like, it's amazing how if you don't have, a lot, you can find very creative ways of making it work. And with Umlungu Wam, it's just been so fascinating to observe how that has also like just translated and added so much value to the storytelling. So yeah, to more mess going forward, I guess.
Yes, definitely. And Jenna, you've worked with different forms of genre before. What drew you to the horror thriller genre, and why both of you think it was the best method to tell the story in Good Madam?
Well, I'm just always interested in genre generally, because for a lot of different reasons, but I suppose one thing that interests me a lot about it is it's this way of kind of pitching stories that might otherwise be very alien to people, or difficult to digest, or like kind of just seem very heavy, or like something that they wouldn't want to spend their Saturday night out watching, or Saturday night in watching, and kind of puts it in like, it kind of shows it in a way which is like entertainment driven, and at the same time it allows you to kind of sneak in a lot of like very serious and at least in my view, like important things that maybe otherwise people wouldn't consider to be entertaining. And so that's what I really love about cinema, is that it has this ability to be at the same time entertaining, and then also like a vehicle of social change and getting people to think differently. So that's what I love about genre on one level. And so I think I was drawn to horror, for a while, partly I think because of this fascination I had with it for being, for being too scared to really engage with the genre for so long, because I was just so easily scared. And I think that fascinated me more. Like, even as a child, like I couldn't read, like R.L. Stine, like Goosebumps books, but I was like obsessed with knowing what they were about. So I'd get my friends to read them and then like tell me what they said. So I think just always being really interested in this like idea that this world is really dark, and wanting to know, but being too scared too. And so I think that like that kind of parallels, Mlungu Good Madam a lot, in that for me, it was like, I suppose from my personal perspective, it's a kind of reflection of, the way that, as growing up as a white South African young person, you are not aware of a lot of things. And then you start to realize that the world that you live in is a horror film, if not for you directly, then for a lot of other people. And yeah, so that is why, I think we're so numb to a lot of the the terrible things that happen around us on a daily basis, that horror is a really great way to remind us that they are terrifying, and that we could do something about them if we wanted.
Yes, definitely. And Babalwa, any comments about the horror genre or the thriller genre that attracted you? You're muted.
Thank you. Took a while there. I think the thing is, it's a conversation we have, so many times. It's quite a common conversation amongst our generation and around us, in South Africa, as far as like the context of the story. And to just be able to tell it in this way, really just felt like it was going to take the conversation to another level, or maybe like, move the conversation further, and give us the space to ask a little bit more questions, as the South African society. I think also just exploring the relationship between, Mavis and Madam, in the way that we did. Especially like during the times, when there's such a huge focus, particularly like in the States, with the Karens, or rather the relationship between, Black women and white women, or white women and, and just like race in the racial sense. And I think what's quite unique and different about South Africa is that it's quite a silent form of oppression. It's not as loud as I guess it is, in the States. So just this relationship and exploring, that dynamic between domestic workers and their madams, in this genre, just really gave it enough time, gives you as the viewer enough time to just really see much more deeply into that dynamic and how completely twisted it is, especially because like with previous content in South Africa, it's always such a topic that's approached with such humor, or approached in a way where it almost suggests that there's something good about it, to some extent. It's almost like a beacon of something, like as far as representing our Rainbow Nation. So I think this genre was just so perfect, just to be able to articulate that dynamic in a way that's just different to what we've seen before, which just allows us to see, all the hidden layers in that space, in that, contained space that we actually don't see a lot.
Yes, I definitely agree. I love the tone of the film and the eerie sense throughout. Were there any maybe film references that inspired the visuals or narrative, or was it purely just you two coming together to figure out what that style would be?
There were definitely a number of them. I'm almost like trying to like cast my mind back to try and remember specifically what they were. I think one of them for me, like a big one, was I really love Ben Wheatley's horror films, and like especially Kill List, which I don't know if there's any actual similarity between them, if you could see any similarity, but I just really love how he is so consistently surprising, and especially on Kill List, how different genres come together in a way that is totally very, I guess you could call it uneven if you're being critical, but like at the same time, I just love like this consistently surprising and shifting tone that makes me even more uneasy because I don't know what's going to come next. And so I suppose I really love him. And yeah, it's a whole lot. Also Katalin Varga, which is not like, I guess, strictly a horror film, but I also just love like films that use aspects of horror. Like one of my favorite horror films is Come and See, which is also arguably not a horror, but like just the ways in which we can show the horrors of society in different kind of ways and just remind people of the world that we live in. Sorry, it's actually quite a hard question to answer. I could go into a lot of depth, but those are some short answers maybe.
No, I love it. Thank you. Any for you, Babalwa?
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm not sure if it would translate into like what would directly influence the style of the film per se, but I think just the languages of like Us and Parasite was such game changers in that sense, and there was just a lot that was inspiring about that, and I think it did inspire and inform so I think those are the two off the top of my head that I can really think of that were had a huge impact.
Awesome.
We just had so much less money though, so we couldn't do any of those things. Next time though.
Yes, oh, still an incredible film. And we are reaching the end of the Q&A, so I just want to ask you both, what projects do you have coming up next?
Well, we're both working on a few things together, which Babalwa, you can speak about, but I'm also working on a supernatural noir set in Cape Town with the same producers who co-produced Mlungwam with us, Causeway Films in Australia. So that hopefully will be next, which will be like quite a much bigger project, which would be awesome. But yeah, we also have some other projects. You can, Babalwa can speak about if you want, or be secretive. It's up to you.
No, absolutely not. There's a project called Eziko, which is a Xhosa word that, directly translated means like the kitchen. And I guess it explores the concept of, feminism in the rural context, and how that is interlinked with so much of our customs and traditions. And so this idea of modern feminism, which tends to come into the spaces and takes over what is already existing. And having grown up in the rural areas, I think those women know exactly who they are and what they stand for, and they have a good sense of what equality is in the context of the space that they are in. So it's really just, exploring, what that is and how good is external Western feminism, how good is it for that space, and how does it contribute really to our spaces.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see all the upcoming projects you guys have coming up. And to our audience, please visit our website at best.afi.com for more opportunities to engage with us. We'd love to hear from you on social media using hashtag AFIFest. Any last words, ladies?
Thank you so much for screening the film, and thanks for watching the film, everyone who is still out there watching our Q&A. Yeah, we really hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.